Well, we're here at the CCA Workbench, the Academy Sports Rigs and Techniques, and I've got a lot of stuff on this table. And everything on this table will catch a snook if they're there and wanting to eat it.
At one time or another, they will definitely catch a snook.
You know, snook is one of the most popular game fish in Florida because mainly you can't really catch them outside of Florida.
Right.
You might be able to catch one in Georgia every once in a great while. Texas has a couple way down there south. But Florida is the place to catch a snook if you want to catch a snook. And we got a lot of them, and they get pretty big. Yeah. You know, the big females come into the inlets every summertime, and we close our season off so you can't keep any during the summer because we know that those girls get in there.
Let them spawn.
Yeah, they got to let them do their business, and they're very susceptible to fishing when they're stacked up in the inlet like that because they're hungry and, you know, especially at the beginning of the season, they're wanting to bulk up, you know.
They get so aggressive, too, when they start spawning. You know, the males in particular are jockeying for position around that female, and they want to push that other guy out of the way. And if something comes in there, they're like, oh, I'm going to get that thing out of here because it's way smaller than me.
Right.
That's when these lures come in.
Right. Well,
really,
you know, they're
really
big ambush predators like we've been talking about, and they like those inlets for dispersing their eggs, and also, like we've been saying, it brings fish to them. And when they'll get behind something, just like a trout, or even like Ray said the other day, the sailfish. All fish like to point into the current. Yeah. You know, they put their nose into the current and let things come to them. They don't like to use a lot of their energy. And what we try to do is we try to put baits and or lures in a position where they want to eat it, you know. And that usually means pretty close to the bottom. Now, when I was a kid growing up, that thing right there, this chartreuse bomber, the long A, was the king. You know, if you wanted to catch snook in Sebastian Inlet, you had to throw that at night on the tide change if you're going to catch them on artificials. And, you know, a lot of guys will take this front hook off because when you're fishing in Sebastian Inlet and a lot of these inlets, there's a lot of rocks and stuff, and you want that thing bouncing on the bottom. And this front hook will sometimes grab the bottom on you, and you can still get plenty of bites and catch plenty with just that one hook on there.
Oh, definitely. The other thing that's nice about a lipped plug is it'll go down, it'll hit whatever you're saying it will hit. Let's just say a rock or even sand if you're just on an open sandy beach. And it digs for a second, and then it rolls to the side and
flashes
and deflects, and then it starts to right itself. Right. And mullet naturally do that anyway. You'll see mullet rub, and right about the time that it deflects and then it starts to come up and right itself, all of a sudden it stops. And it stopped for a reason. It's in a fish's mouth, and that's the time to set the hook.
That's the thud that we're looking for, you know. And they'll eat a snook. You know, we've been talking to you hearing these guys talk. Well, going through all the list of things they'll eat. They love to eat little fish, obviously. You know, fish is their main thing. But they will eat crabs. They'll eat dead bait. They'll eat a chunk of ladyfish on the bottom, a mullet head. You know, they can be very opportunistic at certain times, and other times you can't get them to eat anything. You're looking right at them, and you're wondering why they're not eating. Usually the tide hasn't changed or something like that. A big shrimp, you know, around dock lights in the summertime is a live shrimp. That's a dead one, obviously. I mean, a rubber one. But now, you know, you cast up on a green light, you know, and let that thing float with the current. Whoop.
Now, are you a head hook guy or are you a tail hook guy?
You know, whatever the guide that I'm with tells me to do. You know, I usually hook them in the tail if I'm by myself. Right. Because I just like that, you know, especially if I'm using a jig. If I'm using a jig head, I always hook them in the tail. In the tail. If I'm using just a plain hook and I'm free lining them with a live bait hook, a real light live bait hook, because I don't want the shrimp to change. You know, a shrimp isn't this powerful, you know, bait. Right. So I don't want to put something real heavy in his head that's going to make him swim weird. You know, so I use a light hook and I'll put it right underneath his horn. The key is making sure that it looks natural, exactly as you're saying. That shrimp, if it looks odd, they don't necessarily like that. They want it to look natural. And so a keel hooked, you know, coming in from the bottom and out the top, hook. So if it's in the shrimp like so, like that,
that allows him to swim naturally. Or, like you say, on a lighter current scenario or no current scenario, you want to tail hook him. And that very last segment of the tail is the hardest piece on a shrimp. So you put it in that very last segment. You see a lot of guys will put it up in here. That's not where you want it.
No,
you want it
all the
back
way in the
here,
back.
and then let the shrimp swim, and then you give it little twitches to move.
Now
what about, I was going to say, artificial flare hawks?
I want to talk real quick about the flare hawks. We don't have much time, but these are really popular around the bridges and the inlets at night. Again, these things need to be hugging the bottom. You want to cast up current, let it hit the bottom, and then just wind it along the bottom, and give it a couple of jigs with the reel. You don't have to really do any of the stuff with the rod, because if you're doing it with the reel the whole time, especially with braid, you'll feel every bump and nick. When you start lifting the rod and getting slack in it, you'll lose a lot of those thumps right when you weren't expecting it. But if you've always got tension with the reel and that thing's connecting with the bottom, you will feel that thump.
And we got a couple seconds left. You talked about topwater, and one of my favorites is the chug bug. And
that's my favorite everything.
I like a chrome with a chartreuse back on it for snook in particular. But these little chug bugs work really good, and you use it as well. Yeah, I love them for snook, trout. Everything eats the chug bug. So. Everything eats the chug bug. Great job, Dave. Appreciate it.
No worries.
Thanks for the knowledge. We're going to throw it back over to Brie and see what's going on in the next region.
Absolutely.